on the discussion from part 1 of this video. Watch my whole playlist on sacred sexuality if you want to know more. Now, I wanted to talk to you about the golden age of goddess worship, okay? Now, this was the age of Taurus, right? And what is the polarity of Taurus? It's Scorpio. Now, when you think about Scorpio and Taurus, you immediately think about the libido because they're both ruled by Mars and Venus, the planets that deal with sexuality and attraction and love and sensuality. So immediately you know that these two signs are associated with sexual expression. Okay, now Venus is the ruler of Taurus, and Venus is beautiful and of course very sexual. She's the goddess of earthly love, all things sexual, sensual. And when you think about the archetype of the great goddess, she awakens creation. She brings everything to life like Shakti. Okay, she is responsible for the fecundity of the earth. Okay, and when we think about her methuna, or her sexual procreation with Shiva or the masculine, then we know that there is creation. That is the mystery of creation. They bring forth new life. Okay, now when you think about this merging of the yoni and the lingam, you understand that sexuality is not something to be scared of. It's something to revere. It's something to worship, and in a sense, it is that moment when you bring the sacred into the mundane. So why are we so divorced from this kind of connection? That's why we are addicted. We are addicted to having one night stands that mean nothing but damage our own self-esteem. We don't think about connecting deeply. We are too busy playing games. And then you have dating gurus who are completely misleading people and making the masculine and the feminine fight with one another. And I don't think this is the time to fight, but the time to join in union, like the lingam and like the yoni. Okay, so we need to realize that sexuality was revered once upon a time, not vilified. Okay, sexuality is the ultimate mystery of creation. Okay, in this dimension, because everything happens with sexual procreation here. Okay, so we must realize that these sacred prostitutes, they were not standing on the road looking for Johns. They were not being treated as women, loosely bought and used as commodities and objects. Now, Karl Marx had said that all workers are prostitutes. To end prostitution, we have to end capitalism. And I could not be more in agreement. When you think about the violence, the rape, the stigma, the poor pay, the job, employment insecurities that these women have to go through in the sex industry, I think about it, is it worth it? But there will always be women in this profession because there is a need. There is a capitalistic, exploitative, violent society that we live in. So essentially, we have to understand that we need to end capitalism. Honestly, if we want to end street prostitution, if we want to help these women, we have to end prostitution capitalism, to end prostitution, because in the ancient times, sexuality of these prostitutes was revered. They were the priestesses. Their bodies were vessels to share the blessings of the goddess with strangers who had no connection, no love, or maybe they had a wife and they did not know to connect with the wife. The priestess would connect them, not separate them from the divine essence. Okay, the prostitute would connect them. Hesiod in the 8th century wrote that the central magic of the sacred horse mellowed the behavior of men. She is the bringer of sexual joy and the vessel by which the raw animal instincts are transformed into love and love making. So, this intimacy that the women provide, it is something that society will always need. Okay, it is not something to vilify. It is not something to you know um, ignore either. These women in the industry today need to have workshops whereby they realize the divine potential of their work. If they're going to do it, they need to be spiritually prepared to do this. Okay, because yes, it can be very daunting, reputation and everything, of course it can be a very daunting thing, but it is what these women need to realize and awaken the sacred. Because like I said, sex is the opportunity to bring the sacred into the mundane. Okay, if Carl Jung has also said that if man and women do not distinguish their sexuality, they can become devils to each other. So that's what I see happening. I see the shadow of the sex industry. It is horrible. It is something we need to confront as feminists. We need to support these women. And with the COVID crisis, uh, a lot of women in Kamatipuram, Sonargachi, and Delhi, very low level prostitutes who barely make ends meet, they are in an abject situation. So we need to realize that there's something more to the archetype than just selling sex. Because in the Mughal period, these women were called the wives, and they were some of the most distinguished and learned and sophisticated and cultured and creative and artistic women that ever lived. The Tawifs. Okay, so the Tawifs were fantastic, not only to look at, they were absolutely stunning in the way they depicted art, a sort of like an archetype like the geisha. The thing with the geisha, the interaction with the geisha was not about sex. Yes, it oftentimes was the byproduct and it happened, but it was not the be all and end all of the whole situation. Okay, this was about connection. This was about healing these men. That's what the geishas did. Okay, so the Tawaif culture was something that is very, very interesting. Also in ancient Sumeria, the sacred horse were called Nugig, and that translates to undefiled, pure, or spotless. And this archetype is reminiscent of Venus in Virgo. Okay, women who are known for beauty and sexuality, they were considered pure, autonomous, sexually autonomous women. Okay, we even have in Tantric Buddhism female consorts. Okay, and these consorts were sexual alchemists. We even have, of course, the archetype of the Dakini, sexually enlightened, naked sky dancers. Okay, Dakini. Now, in Tantra, the Methuna is the Hieros or the sacred alchemical marriage. okay, and we've seen that in Japan we experienced the whole archetype of the sacred prostitute by Miko with Shinto. Okay, Shinto is their ancient religion, which is about ancestor worship. So the sacred prostitution was practiced by Miko, okay, within the Shinto tradition. Now, when we think about the sacred prostitutes, and when I think about them, I think about how in the Bengali tradition, before Durga Puja, the Brahmin must go to the house of a prostitute and collect mud to make the idol. The karigar who's making the idol must get the first lump of clay from the home of a prostitute. So why do you think this was prevalent? Why do you think this happened? It's because of the love that they would share, the connection that they would share. And now their magic was the touch, and now we see how touch has become so destructive. Okay, it is completely been turned on its head, essentially, this whole ideology of sexual healing, and it has gone underground. Very few people understand what it means, and the alchemy of sexuality, okay.